Howdy, my friends, and welcome into today's episode of Forte Catholic. We hope that you enjoyed your Thanksgiving break, whether you're with family or friends. We just hope that you ate a lot and had a lot to be thankful for. We're very thankful for you and listening today. We've got a great episode for you today. Jon Blevins is my co-host. I share a couple of, quite a few crazy stories from my recent trip to Seattle. We have a good laugh about that. We also play one of our favorite games here on the show called Freestyle Preaching, where me and Jon take turns giving each other 3 random words that we have to stick in to a 60-second sermon. We hope that you enjoy that. And then finally, we kind of do our fake silly sermons in the second segment. In the third segment, both Jon and I travel and speak. And I wanted to be like, Jon, what are like the main things, the main points that you want to get across when you travel to, preach the gospel? And then I shared some of mine as well. So we have a lot of fun and then a lot of things that really come from the heart this week. So we hope that you enjoy it. If you do, please hit that subscribe button wherever you are watching or listening. We appreciate it. Enjoy. What's up? And welcome to Forte Catholic. I am Taylor Schroll. That is Jonathan Bearded Lene Blevins.
Hey man, how are you doing?
I'm doing well.
Am I allowed to ask that on the radio? You're not supposed to ask that. You call on the radio, they say, all right, you'll be on in 5 minutes. Don't ask them how they're doing, and everybody does it.
Yeah, everybody hates it, and it's normal. But since you interrupted me from answering it, it's totally okay. Yeah.
Oh, perfect. Okay, good.
Now we're having a real conversation, not a, how are you today? Oh, I'm good. How are you? Oh, I'm good. Okay, let's talk about the Lions.
Go Lions!
So I have, I forgot about something. I didn't actually tell you this. We have a great show planned for you today, and I totally forgot about how I was going to introduce today's show.
Oh.
So I need to pull this up. So what's been new in your world lately?
Why am I nervous right now?
You shouldn't be. It's going to be great.
Oh, okay. What's been new in my world? Well, I am actively trying to get a butter sponsorship, and it might be working.
From like Country Crock? What's going on?
No, that's not butter. That's fake and that's offensive. Tillamook. Little Tillamook.
Okay.
Okay. Just because I talk about butter all the time, I'm doing it for free. That's been going on. Wife and kids are good. So it's that holiday season. So whoop-de-doo.
Dickory.
Yeah. Watch your mouth.
Don't forget, I'm not going to finish that line because I don't know what it says. Okay.
To hang up your socks.
Oh, is that what it says? Okay.
Yeah, because you'll be coming down the okay.
Coming down the chimney in town. So this is our post-Thanksgiving episode, but we are recording this before Thanksgiving. So I'm going to do what I did to Father Anthony around Christmas time. I once asked him what his homily was, how his homily went for Christmas, even though we were recording before Christmas. And I made him fake his homily and then revealed to everyone that it didn't happen. So how was your Thanksgiving, Jon?
My Thanksgiving was great. Unfortunately, on Wednesday before Thanksgiving, we had to do a bunch of family pictures. I already did family pictures, but now we have to do them for the whole immediate extended family of my mom and dad and brothers and whatever and sister. And so that wasn't super fun, but I'm sure they'll look good. The food, amazing. I made a butternut squash soup that was life-changing and had a lot of wine and celebrated a big Detroit Lions win over the Bills. So wild stuff.
Oh, yeah. I heard you won a big parlay on some teams this week.
Can you believe that the Lions, Michigan, and USA all won within 3 days of each other? Best 3 days of my life.
What's really funny is it's highly likely that the exact opposite has already happened.
Okay, hold on. Ohio State, Michigan will be a fun one, but it'll be fun.
Yeah,
it'll be fun.
That's your best chance, I think. Like the Lions aren't beating the Bills.
Hey, we've won 3-0, baby. 3 in a row.
I'm so proud of you, and it's so funny that I saw that you tweeted the other day. You're like, everybody's been hating on me. I said we were going to go on a win streak, and we've won 3 in a row, and so I'm right. But I also know that like you have never predicted a Lions loss. So you've been predicting them to go 17-0 every year, and now you're finally vindicated because they've won 3 in a row.
No, that's almost true, but no, I'm pretty realistic. This year I said between 7 and 9 wins, and I stand by it. I still think that's actually the exact number, between 7 and 9. We're favored in the rest of the as long as barring any bad injury, they'll be favored in every single game on their schedule from here on out, except for against the Bills and against the Vikings.
I think I think if their offense was the only team that played, they could go 7-9. But the fact that y'all have a defense makes it less than that.
Hey, at least you said we have a defense. That's the nicest thing people have said about defense in a while.
All right. Are you ready for my introduction to today's
I'm nervous,
show?
but I'm ready.
Okay, here's an email that I got about the show.
Oh.
So this is now 2 episodes ago. I was sitting with our good friend, Allison Bearded Sullivan, and we were talking about how I went and bought this background at Joann's. And, you know, it's just kind of naturally funny that me, a 33-year-old chubby bald white man, went into Joann's, and I'm not their target demographic, and we laughed about that, right?
Yeah.
So then I got an email. I just came across your name written at the end of a podcast I listened to and just enjoy so much. It's one that is so true to our Catholic faith. I'm like, this could go multiple ways. I was quite happy that when I looked up your name to discover that you will have your own podcast. She's so excited. She found us, John. This is so great. Okay. I thought I would start with the most recent episode and go from there. I was so surprised at what I just heard. I was like, this is going great. I'm glad you're surprised. That I'm going to make my first ever online complaint.
Oh no, that's not how you start a complaining email, but okay.
This was going so well, and also I don't believe her. After reading the rest of this email, there's zero chance this is her first online complaint.
Yeah, she's a Karen for sure.
Yeah, that's exactly what my wife said.
Yeah.
I have never even commented negatively anywhere online. We've got a saint on our hands. This saint is emailing us about the show, okay? But I just heard such worldly, trendy humor putting down the women who work and shop at Joann's, and it made me so sad. I was like, is it trendy to make fun of Joann's? I've never heard anybody make a joke about Joann's.
I haven't heard of Joann's in 10 years.
Right, yeah. So it's worldly and trendy. It made me so sad. You insulted age, specifically older women. Or to paraphrase your words, women so old they are ready to die. I was like, I did say that.
Oh my gosh.
She said, you insulted people who love to create and shop or work at Joann's. You did this all to get a laugh. And I'm here to say, I agree with this woman. I did say it all to get a laugh. That's the point of jokes. The whole point of jokes is to get a laugh. And apparently it worked because she recognized that I was joking. And I thought it was hilarious. So everyone else that listened to it and knows us and knows the style of the show probably chuckled along. We have old women who listen to the show. I didn't get any hate mail from them. They love the show and they love me. I just thought it was so funny. I laughed so hard. We very rarely get like actual hate mail for the show. And I was like, really? A joke about Joann's is what does it? That's what does me in? Awesome.
Maybe she had a bad week, lost her puppy, you know?
Yeah, there's a lot of factors before you make your first negative online comment.
Yeah, a lot. Yeah, that's wild. I have an affirmation for you.
Oh yeah?
Yeah, nobody likes to get put down, even if you think it's funny. I was doing an event in Green Bay, Wisconsin. By the way, I do this thing where I ask questions to everyone who's there when I'm doing a talk with young people. Because they're like, come up with a game. And I'm like, I'm not playing a game. I don't do games anymore. I'm not a youth minister. And I just like stand up if you agree with my hot take, sit down if you disagree with my hot take. And it gets so fun. And I was like, it's time for Aaron Rodgers to retire. And dude, everyone in Green Bay, I'm like 2 MVPs in a row, 1 bad season. You're so spoiled. I digress. After that conference, Father Ed Looney came up and said hello to me. Do you know him?
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
He is a listener of the show.
Nice.
He came up and he was like, hey man, I love listening to your episodes on Forte. How's Taylor doing? And I was like, Taylor's great. Like that. Well, that's so cool. That's the first time where I've been not online where that's happened. There are people online, of course, who we both know who love the show. And, but this is the first time I've been approached like in person at an event where someone's like, oh, Forte, that's cool. So yeah, well done, dude.
Well, that's great. I'm glad it took 4 years.
I mean, dude, that's when there was a pandemic. I wasn't out that much. Okay.
Yeah.
That's not true. I was out just the same amount.
So it was just so funny. Like, honestly, it made my day, and I was like, now I have a starter for the show. Thank you.
Did you respond and be like, I'm so sorry, like you took it the wrong way, I love you, come back, or no?
No. So I typed out an email. And what the email said was, LOL, yes, the intention of jokes is to get a laugh. and then I deleted it and didn't hit send.
There's one thing you could have done that would have been even better, and that is to send her a digital gift card to Joanne's. $10. That would be so funny.
I'm doing it.
I'm so sorry. You just have to click the link, send it to her. Here's $10 to Joanne's. I'm so sorry. Hope you come back to the show. Just don't listen to this week's episode.
I'm doing it. That's so funny. That's what I'm doing for Giving Tuesday. Is I'm sending this woman a Joanne's gift card. That's so funny. Okay, I had a great trip recently to Seattle, the Pacific.
Ooh, did you have
North.
coffee? Craft beer? Okay, keep going.
I did not, but alcohol does come up here in just a moment. It was just beautiful. The air was so clean. I got to see the mountain. So I bookended my year in Seattle. I had never been to Seattle before. In January, February, I went to Seattle to lead a retreat. And here I am back at the end of the year leading a retreat in Seattle. And I mentioned on the show that they're like the biggest mountain in the 48 states. All the 10 biggest are in Alaska, but the biggest mountain in the 48 is Mount Rainier, right outside of Seattle. And I was in Seattle and for 4 days and never saw the mountain. It's right there. And they were like, the mountain's right there, but it was just so cloudy. And like there's just something about the aura of the mountain. They called it the Ghost Mountain before it was called Mount Rainier. And like it literally just disappears, even though it's massive. And so like I talked on the show at the beginning of the year how I just had this existential dread knowing this mountain was there. I'm staring at it and it just wasn't there. And I was like, ah! Wow.
You couldn't see it on the plane either?
No, I couldn't see it on the plane. Nothing.
Wow.
So I'm flying back and I'm not on, I'm an aisle sitter, so I don't have control of the windows. So all the windows are closed. I don't see the mountain coming in. And then I get out at the airport. I get picked up by the youth minister. We're driving out. 5 minutes down the drive, we hit this curve, and just boom, I see it. It's perfectly clear. I saw Mount Rainier. My existential dread that started at the beginning of 2022 is over.
I like that. That's amazing. Why have I heard of that mountain? Is there like a lake Rainier where like people die? I feel like there's something bad about that mountain that I've heard.
Oh, yeah, it just disappears.
Not the mountain. Yeah, it just doesn't exist. That's amazing. I'm glad you got to see it.
I think you might have heard of it because it's the largest mountain.
I'm pretty sure people died there.
I'm sure. I'm sure people were like, hey, let's go to the top. And then they got to the bottom quicker than they planned.
Yikes.
See, it was a joke.
That's a funny, yeah.
I said
May
it
all
in
those
order
people
to get
rest
a laugh.
in peace.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks, John. Thanks for your support. Okay. So the alcohol story. I've got a bunch of stories from this weekend. So we get to the camp. This is a Catholic deanery retreat, right? So there's all these parishes coming together. But like a lot of youth ministry stuff, there aren't a lot of Catholic camps. So we're going to a Protestant camp, like a non-denominational camp, where we're going to do all the Catholic stuff. We still have mass and adoration and confession stuff, but it's at a Protestant camp. And we get there. It's me, the youth minister, and the guy that works at the camp. And I hear him explaining to the youth minister. The youth minister's been going here for 10 years. Like they have a relationship with this camp, right? He's used to it. But he's like, oh yeah, the cabins are open over here. We've got the main cafeteria open, and also we've got the tab open. And I was like, the tab? Do I get to drink at this retreat? Like,
no way.
Get me a whiskey, get me some beer. I was so surprised that like there's alcohol. There's a tab
at a Protestant camp?
At a Protestant camp? Like, is that even legal? And then I realized that was short for their large meeting space, their church. That was the tabernacle.
Oh, yeah, that's very different. That's very different.
The tabernacle room was open. I was very disappointed.
The tab is open. That's a weird. Wow, who? I've never heard ever. 15 years of parish ministry. Never heard someone call the tabernacle the tab.
Well, it's a Protestant church, so there's not like an actual like Catholic tabernacle. Like it's not where we hold the Eucharist, right? It's the tabernacle is like the holy space, right? Like it's where their whole church service is like where I did all my talks and all that sort of thing, right? I just thought
so. You did not get alcohol.
I did not get alcohol, but I did get upgraded to first class on the way there, and I got unlimited wine. I felt like I was at the wedding of Cana in the air.
Love that.
It was very good. The crazy thing. Okay, so we're at the retreat. Me and the youth minister are there. We're getting set up. And then we start getting these phone calls. But the kids are supposed to be getting there between like 5 and 6. And it's 5, 5:15, 5:30, 5:45. There's only a few kids there. And then it gets to be 6:15, 6:30. Like the
Mount
arrival
Rainier.
window was 5 to 6. Yeah, the mountain, they got lost. Everyone
got lost in the mountain.
disappeared. No, but here's the thing. There's like one main highway to get to this camp right outside of Olympia, Washington, which is their capital. Someone had like not involved in the retreat, but on the main highway to get there, right?
Yeah.
Stole a semi-truck. Like from a rest stop, like a gas station stop, right? Stole a semi-truck. Probably drove it as well as you or I would drive a semi-truck, right? Like able to, but we've never done it before, so it didn't look pretty. Is driving down the highway, swerving in and out of traffic in a semi-truck. It's a huge police chase. Police cars are chasing the semi-truck. This guy is swerving in and out of traffic, crashes the semi-truck. So everyone was late to this retreat because someone stole a semi-truck. As excuses for being late to church go, it was a pretty good one.
Yeah, I mean, how do you compete with that, dude? Now you have to capture their attention the rest of the weekend without them talking about that they're part of a high-speed chase. Yeah. Do you know what was in the semi? What was in there?
A thief.
Yeah, but why, Taylor? See, these are the questions I want to know. I'm going to Google this as soon as we're done.
Oh,
what was in there? Was it a Lay's potato chip truck? Because totally get it.
I think the primary reason that this was stolen was that certain things are legal in Seattle that aren't legal elsewhere.
I
think there was some outside influence on the inside of this thief.
I see what you're saying. I'm picking up what you're putting down.
Okay, so that is the craziest and most outlandish excuse
That's crazy. That's wild.
Church event ever. You've been working in ministry, or you worked in ministry for a long time. Now you're doing online stuff. What is like the craziest excuse either you've had or you've heard for being late to something for church?
Okay, so Life Teen Leadership Conference, Atchison, Kansas. I think that conference every year that I've been doing ministry was in June, which is tornado season, right? Like I think that summer and then spring and a little bit of fall, right? Or like major tornado season. And Atchison, Kansas, obviously Kansas, tons of tornadoes. There was a group, an entire bus that got stuck in like torrential downpour and tornado-like weather. They ended up going off-road to try to like escape some of this weather and got stuck in mud. And their bus was stuck there for like 8 hours. So they were about 12 hours late to the event. And of course, there's 50 kids, 100 kids. And so everyone gets up on stage the next day. They missed a whole day. And, the host is like, hey, welcome them. They're okay. Like they were sleeping in a bus. And I was like, oh, that sounds like absolute hell, and terrifying as well with all the weather. But they made it. Something happened. They like walked and found a house and the guy brought his tractor and got the bus unstuck eventually and crazy stuff. But that was a whole day late. And I'm pretty sure Life Team gave him a discount for being late.
I would love nothing more to have been the worship leader at that conference, because right when they arrived, I would have started playing "Blow, Mighty Wind of God."
What's the storm one, dude? I'll praise you in the storm.
I'll praise you in the storm. I will lift my hands.
Yes, dude.
It's all I would have done the whole rest of the weekend.
Yeah. That's pretty funny. But that's a good excuse. I'm trying to think of mine. I don't know if I have. I'm not usually late because my wife doesn't let me be late. We've not been late to church once in our whole marriage.
Wow.
Isn't that wild? And it's never me. It's like 30 minutes before Mass. Mass is 8 minutes away. And she's like, let's get the shoes on for the kids. I'm like, why? And we get there 10 minutes early almost every time.
It's funny because it's the opposite here. I'm the one that has to get us ready on time, but I'm also the one that doesn't want to do anything to help get the kids ready. It's like, if I'm ready, we're ready. And I'm like, I'm leaving. We're getting there on time. And they're like half dressed with no shoes on. And like, the daughters are wearing like their Powder Puff Girls dresses. And I'm like, let's go.
It's time.
Yeah.
That's funny.
All right. More stuff from this week. I'm just incredible amounts of things.
Yeah.
happening.
These are great stories.
It's so much fun. This one, not so fun though. You mentioned that you got some good news about, somebody brought up the show in person, right?
Yep.
Usually when somebody brings up the show in person, it's like, typically, like when I'm going to an event, like people will have listened to the podcast, even if they're not like avid listeners. They wanted to get like a taste of the show, and then they hear me, make fun of Joanne's, and they're like, okay, this is something that I can be down with, and then we have a good time, right? But the guy running tech at this retreat was a 16-year-old. He's like on the teen leadership team, and super into his faith, and he was cool. I ended up spending a good amount of time at the retreat with him. Because I was, a sound guy. I was helping him with the soundboard, and he was the one that was putting up like my slides and stuff for my talk. So we spent a good amount of time at the retreat together. And about, halfway through the second day, he was getting pretty comfortable, feeling pretty comfortable with me. Right. And he said, he's like, oh yeah, I've never really listened to it, but my mom listens to your podcast.
Oh no.
It's the first time I have ever felt old specifically about the podcast. I'm like, oh no.
Dude, that's tough. That is tough. It's also cool, right? It's cool because he likes you. He thinks you're cool. And then it's like, hey, my mom listens to your stuff too. That's good. Maybe he'll listen to this one.
Yeah. So it was really funny. I when I was saying bye to everybody, and when I said bye to him the next day, I was like, hey man, it's really great hanging out with you. You did a great job at the tech stuff. Like, this is where I got started in ministry. So like, this is real, I was like your age and started doing tech. I was running sound and, doing slides. And, I just, you did a great job, and I really enjoyed our time together. And he was like, oh, thanks, man. I appreciate it. And then he kind of chuckled. He's a good sense of humor. He was like, all right, bye. I'll never see you again. And I'll never see you again. I turned over my shoulder and I said, but you'll hear me.
Nice.
Overheard by the podcast by his mom listening. So, hi, Mom. Hello, mother of tech guy.
Nice tech guy's mom.
Yeah. All right. Two final things from this weekend in Seattle. One, I mentioned earlier that I was at the Protestant camp, so I thought it was tab, but obviously there's no alcohol there, right? But the one thing that I would think would be at Protestant camps
is a Bible.
Yeah, it's a Bible. It would be many Bibles actually. Right?
You didn't even set me up for this.
So it was like like this camp could hold like a ton of people. There's a ton of cabins, a ton of space, and we were going to go do Lectio Divina. Every time I lead a retreat, I like to do a session of Lectio Divina where they can have like their own kind of guided prayer time, right? Kind of so that they can take it home and do it themselves. And there's this beautiful dock out in the lake. So we got to spread out on the dock and like be in this beautiful weather. There's mountains in the background. There's, leaves are changing color and fall. And like, it was just gorgeous. Right. So we were going to spend 15, 20 minutes out in like perfect peace and quiet. And I was like, so where are the Bibles at? They didn't have Bibles at the Protestant camp. Like, what are you doing, man? How do you not have a Bible? So we had to like print it out on like pieces of paper. Like, what is this?
Yeah, that's pretty crazy. Was it not on the packing list for the kids to bring a Bible? Who does a retreat and doesn't have the kids bring a Bible?
No one. I've never put bring a Bible on it. One, because I know my Catholic kids probably don't have one.
Oh, we always did.
They're there. They're supposed to be there.
So that part I understand, and they should be there for sure. That's super weird. I mean, they're in hotels. They should be in the Protestant camp. Right. But they should. But also, like, we always, even kids who didn't have a Bible would buy one because it said it on the packing list. You had to bring one.
Oh, nice. Very good. I'm just, I'm not a paper guy. I have my Bible right here in my phone,
Yeah, exactly.
So what was really funny is since they didn't have Bibles and we didn't have a way to print, we had to ask the Protestant camp to print out, 60 of these sheets. So I made them print out the New American Version.
Yes. Owned.
Yeah. So that was fun. All right. Final thing. We were at Mass and, the person doing one of the readings said a reading from a letter to the Colossians. And I had no idea if it was Colossians or Galatians, and I still don't know. So if anybody who went to Mass last weekend can let me know what the reading was from.
I'm 99% sure it was Colossians because the person mispronounced it at mine as well as like Colossians.
Yeah.
Like Coliseum.
It's just like I don't understand as a lector why you wouldn't look over it first. Like, like I get if it's like a teen or a kid, it's kind of funny when they do it, but like at your parish it was probably a grown adult.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like I love that stuff in youth ministry because it's like those little things are like cute. It's kind of fun, right? They're learning. Like that's great. I encourage that. But like adults not read, like you could tell when people haven't read before. It's like, come on, man.
Yeah. Well, and almost everyone has, I can just go to usccb.org and listen to it. You know what I mean? Like if you're not sure, you don't even have to Google it. You can just hit play and listen to somebody read it.
Colossians.
My favorite one ever, though, which has happened multiple times in my life, is a reading from the letter of St. Paul to the Filipinos. It's my favorite one every time, especially when I grew up in like it was a very large Filipino parish. And I worked at that same parish then for many years. And it must have happened once a year minimum the whole time I was there.
That's so great. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me from the Filipinos.
Yes. They're very strengthened.
That is awesome. I love that so much. So, that was my week. I got some lovely hate mail that made me laugh. It made my week, and I was already having a good week with Seattle. We hope that you enjoyed your Thanksgiving week as John and I did, and obviously he won his bet, so everybody's having a good time. Whenever we come back, we're going to play, speaking of preaching, I spent all weekend preaching, so I want to keep it going. We're going to play Freestyle Preaching, one of our favorite games here on the show. Do not go anywhere. The day this episode publishes is very late on what is known worldwide, I don't know about worldwide, but at least here in the U.S., as Giving Tuesday. And Forte Catholic could use your support on Giving Tuesday, or Giving Wednesday or Thursday or Friday, whenever you are listening to this. We could use your help literally every day. So why support Forte Catholic? Number one, because God said so. I mean, maybe he didn't come out with a booming voice like, hey, you should give your money to Forte Catholic. But he did say that we should be, giving back to him and the church and to ministries from the good things that he has given us. And we, as a Catholic nonprofit, 501c3, you get a little bang for your buck there. You get to give a little bit of money to God through Forte Catholic, and the government also likes that as well. The second reason you should get to Forte Catholic is we actually did some math leading up to Giving Tuesday this year. Forte Catholic has reached 2.4 million people in the 7 years that we have been a thing. So we've reached 500,000 here on the podcast and YouTube, and almost another 2 million on our social media feeds. So if you want to help support us and help us get to the next 2.4 million people reach with the good news of the gospel, it's a great thing that you could be supporting. Also, we really need your help because we are growing and our mission is growing and the things that we're being invited into is growing. I need help. We need to hire another staff member, and we have the person in mind. We just need the money now at this point. So if you can give a monthly donation to help go towards paying our next employee, fortecatholic.com/donate is the way to do that. If you can't give monthly, then a one-time donation would help us with, kind of close out the year on a positive note. But if you can give $25, $50, $100 a month to go towards this young man who I'm hiring salary to really help us out, it'll allow him to do more. But he wants to do what he feels God is calling him to do in doing this, what we're doing here, in trying to change Catholic media and entertainment and bring the joy of the gospel to as many people as we can. That will also free me up to be able to do some more big projects that I've had in the back of my mind for a while that I just don't have time for because there's a lot to do here at Forte Catholic. So we could really use your help. ForteCatholic.com/donate. We appreciate everything you can do. Welcome back to Forte Catholic. I am Taylor Schroll, and that is still the bearded wonder. I'm so glad that John is here to play one of our favorite games here on the show. It's called Freestyle Preaching. So both of us have been speaking for half a millennia, it feels like, right? So,
oh my gosh, yeah.
What this game is we are going to give each other 3 words. Those are like our key words, right? We're going to take turns giving each other 3 words, and then we have 60 seconds to give you a heartfelt sermon, little 60-second message of what the Lord wants you to hear, including those 3 words. Mm-hmm. Does that make sense to you? If it makes sense to you, it probably makes sense to the listeners.
It makes sense to me.
Okay. Would you like to preach first, or would you like me to preach first?
I'd like you to go first.
That is confusing. Would you like to preach first, or would you like me to preach first?
You to preach first.
Okay, then please, sir, give me 3 random words that I will include here in my sermon.
Okay. Your words are buffaloes, coffee, and Advent calendars.
Ooh, that's 4 words, but I'll accept it.
Well, yeah, Advent calendar.
Advent calendars. Okay. sometimes our faith can actually be confusing, right? Like I'm still not convinced what we have in America. Do we have buffaloes or bison? I apparently say it wrong every single time. I've been taught this, and yet I still get it wrong. I think it's buffalo because we have like the Buffalo Bills and their buffaloes, right? But I swear I've pet a bison in America, and I'm just very confused, right? And things in our faith can be confusing and yet somewhat surprising, right? Like my feelings about coffee. I didn't like coffee my entire life. And then about a year ago, I was surprised at how tired I felt every single day. But it was still a good thing when I started drinking coffee. I drink coffee right now, which is probably why I'm talking like a mile a minute. But here we are finding ourselves in the Advent season. So even if we're confused about how God became man, and this is the mystery that we are preparing for, we can still be pleasantly surprised by what God wants to do in our life. And we can participate that in Advent leading up to Christmas by the surprise of opening up our Advent calendars each and every day. So even if you're confused in faith, the Lord Jesus is coming for you. Amen.
Wow.
I think it was
4 seconds over, but that was amazing.
How many? 4?
4 seconds over, but
I felt like I talked for like 2 minutes. I'm glad it was only 4
that was just like a
seconds.
minute, 6 minutes. That's good, dude. I like the Buffalo Bison one that's good.
I have no idea because like I said for years because my uncle owned a ranch for a long time, and like the Buffalo Bison would walk up to the house, like literally up to the house, and they are massive. I had no idea how big they were, and I walked up and pet them, and I said for years that I pet bison, and everybody's like, "No, you didn't. They don't live in America, you idiot." And I'm like, "Leave me alone."
I don't think that's true. I think they do live in America.
They're definitely different things. Buffalo versus bison. They're definitely different things, and one is American, and the other is like outside of the U.S.
I don't know, dude. I don't know. It's bison, not buffalo. Apparently, in America. Buffalo and bison are distinct. Old world true buffalo.
Bison are found in North America. Okay. So that's really confusing because the Buffalo Bills have a buffalo as their thing, but the bisons are what's in America. See, it's very confusing.
Yeah, I'm more confused.
Yeah, just like Catholicism. The more we learn, the more confused we get.
Yep.
All right. Are you ready? Are you ready for, I think you have a lot to follow here.
I think you did a very good job with 3. Coffee's an easy one to transition from anywhere to anything with church stuff. But the other 2 words, not easy. Well done, my friend.
Well, I'm very proud of myself, and I think I'm going to be proud of you because I think you're, I think what I remember of you playing this game last time is that you were better than Anthony, and I thought that was funny because he gives a sermon every day, a homily every day.
Got him.
Got him. Okay, it is your turn, sir. I'm going to give you 3 words. Here in our holiday season, I'm going to make sure that I give you an Advent or a Christmas word, right? Mm-hmm. So I'm going to give you Lions because you love your Detroit Lions. I'm going to give you Lions, stable, and prepare. Lions, stable, and prepare. On your mark.
Lions, stable.
Yep.
And prepare.
Yep.
Okay.
On your mark, get set, go.
As you know, I have been a diehard Detroit Lions fan my entire life. And what I'd like to say to people about that is that it proves that I am loyal because nobody chooses to be a Lions fan. You choose to be a Patriots fan or a Packers fan, but not the Lions because they're horrible. But I'm a loyal person and I am an imperfect human being. But you know who else is even more loyal than us? The God of the universe who created us and knows us. And he does not disappoint. He does not let us down ever. In fact, he became one of us as a tiny little infant baby in a stable so that we could know what it's like. He came into the filth of our life and entered into it and showed us how to live and how to love because that is who he is. And he loves us very much. And he wants to prepare our hearts to make sure that we're ready to receive him in his word every single day as Catholics in sacrament and in all that we do. So follow the God of the universe who loves you more than you can ever imagine.
That was great. You were 4 seconds under.
Early.
So you were
under.
I
needed to go 4 seconds, but okay, here we go. That's a good warm up.
Yeah, I mean that's what we want. We're trying to get right around 60 seconds. So we're both within 4 minutes, just in opposite directions. And I think that says a lot about both of us. I'm a little long winded. You're a little bit more succinct and to the point. So I think it's
there we go.
Pretty well. All right, let's see how our second one goes. I would like 3 more words from you, sir, so I can, obviously share this prepared message that I have.
All right, you get eggnog.
Ooh.
Did you just say ew or who?
I said woof. Like,
Oof, yeah. You get eggnog, pictures.
Words are hard. You can literally
Eggnog, pictures, and rent.
Rent. All right, here we go. So last segment I was talking about my trip to Seattle, and I watched this movie called Tick Tick Boom, which stars Andrew Garfield, who I only knew from playing Spider-Man. And I didn't know anything about this movie other than that everybody said Andrew Garfield was tremendous at it. And what I didn't know is, one, that it was a musical. So I was delightfully surprised and delighted by that. He's a tremendous singer. And it's about the guy who wrote the musical Rent. So it's like based on a real story. And like, I wasn't a huge fan of Rent. Like, I watched it when I was in high school, but I loved this movie about, like, it gave like more backstory. It was really heartfelt, great storylines. And it really gave me like a picture, an image into this lifestyle that I'm not really used to. Right. And it was a beautiful story of like making something good out of pain and suffering. And I loved it just way more than I like eggnog. I think eggnog is the worst thing about the holiday season. It's just nasty and gross. And I would pay any amount of money to never hear the word eggnog again. So you thought I said ew when I said oof, but I really should say ew. That stuff is nasty. So, we love to talk about the true good and beautiful here. I would say choose great movies like Tick Tick Boom over the ugly, the bad, and the unbeautiful of eggnog this holiday season.
Wow. Dude, you had a moment. That was very good. You had a moment where you said something like, and obviously I don't get to be listening to it right now. Like anyone else can just rewind it. You said something like, taking something broken and making it amazing or beautiful or something. And I thought that's what you're going to say about eggnog and eggs. And you can take broken eggs and you can turn it into something beautiful like eggnog.
No, that would have been a better like play on words, but eggnog
I was like, he
sucks.
is not. Dude, Taylor, I was like, he is not about to make this connection. That would be the funniest thing ever. That was funny.
No,
well done.
I'm glad that you heard it. And it's funny because one of the funny things about this is like we hear these silly sermons and like I'm often thinking like during real homilies or real talks, like, oh, if I was up there, I probably would have said this, right? And like sometimes people would be like, I've heard people say that sometimes that could be prideful, like, oh, you're not the one in charge. Why don't you just listen to what they're saying, right? But what I love about the connections that my brain is making when somebody else is preaching is like the connection that you just made of when somebody else was speaking, right? Of like, you're connecting it to your own life. It's bringing joy to your life. You're able to share that joy with everybody else. So I actually love when other people are preaching and you're like I take notes on people's homilies and talks and podcasts. And like, that's the stuff that we talk about here on the show. So I think everybody should be doing that. I think that's a great point that we didn't even try to make here, Jonathan. Good job. Okay.
Thank you.
Speaking of holidays and alcohol and
you're gonna give me bourbon, aren't you?
I am. I'm gonna give you bourbon.
I almost gave you bourbon.
I would have enjoyed that one. I would have made sometimes you have to crush a grain of wheat. Unless a grain of wheat falls to the ground and dies, it cannot become bourbon. I'm going to give you bourbon carols, like the songs, not women, right? Bourbon, carols, and family.
Okay. Bourbon, family, and carols. Okay.
On your mark.
Okay.
Get set. Go.
One of my favorite things about bourbon is that when you're drinking it, when you're smelling it, when you're even just looking at it and seeing it, you are looking at history. I watched this documentary called Neat. I recommend it to everyone because you don't know where the corn came from, but it came from somewhere they thought was worth it, that the soil was tilled in a certain way. You're getting the flavors from the soil, from that corn. Every single bourbon is aged in a oak charred barrel that's been only used. This is the first time it's been used. And you don't know which tree that came from and the soil that came with it. So the flavors are just everywhere. And you're drinking history every time you drink it. And it really is meant to be not stored away, not collected, but shared with family and the people that you love. That is what it's all about. And the joy that comes from that really reminds me of the joy that you get from singing Christmas carols with your family. And here during this Advent and Christmas season, God is in the joy. Yes, go to Mass every single Sunday. Pray as often as you possibly can. Do your Advent prayers with your family. All of those good things. But also know that he is present in all of those moments of joy that you experience, whether you're having a nice glass of bourbon and enjoying history, or if you are just simply enjoying your family.
I feel like we got a very good glimpse into your personal life, your psyche, and your spiritual life there. You had a minute. You spent 43 seconds on bourbon and then tried to sneak in your family and God there at the end. And
I forgot what the third word was for a second. I forgot the third word.
It was good. It was just like, oh yeah, family and God, that's an afterthought. Let's talk about bourbon for a while.
Because I had to remember the third word. I had to keep going. And what was the third word? It was family.
Carols.
It was carols. And I said it, but it was close, bro. I almost stopped myself and asked you what the third word was, but that would have been bad.
I've had to do that before, which is why I now write them all down.
Yep.
Okay, we've got time for one more each. So please give me my final 3 words.
All right. Your 3 words are brewing. Okay. Brewing. Psalms. And Bethlehem.
It is ridiculous how long it takes for you to think of 3 words. You can literally do anything.
Well, because otherwise we're just gonna be like, otherwise I'll be like lamp, carpet.
John, are you just picking things around the room and saying you love them?
Yes,
I love lamp. All right. It says Bethlehem. I don't think that's correct. I think it's Bethlehem. Okay. Here we go. On your mark, get set, go. The Old Testament, we wouldn't really understand it without the New Testament. The New Testament really brings these stories to life. Like there are psalms about this coming king, about this coming savior, and we pray them every week when we go to Mass. And maybe if you're doing liturgy hours, you're praying through the Psalms. These songs of heartache, these songs of praising God, these songs of God, where are you? These songs that really come from the human heart. But there was something, like it was all preparing for something. And God knew he had this plan brewing. Like he had something special ready and waiting for us. And there in this little town of Bethlehem, God changed the entire course of human history. All of the struggles that his people went through, all of this waiting, all of this hope was finally fulfilled in that little baby in a stable in Bethlehem. And that's what we get to celebrate here in this Advent season. So I invite you, what is God like trying to do in your life? Because I feel like there's something special truly brewing that he is preparing for you. So let's rejoice with him in the Psalms as we prepare for him to come in this Advent season and to actually come on Christmas Day. Amen.
Wow. You used brewing twice, minimally.
Yep.
You also brought in stable, so you used one of my old words. I mean, well done.
And prepare. I was
looking
at the list and tried to bring in as many as I could.
That was good. I like it. I also like that you said Bethlehem because it is close to Thanksgiving and Christmas, and ham is on my mind as well.
Yeah, honey baked is the way to go for sure.
It is.
It's how the Lord intended, which is why we don't have the dietary restrictions, because the Lord loves us and wanted us to have honey baked ham on his feast days. All right, you're gonna bring us home, and and your first word is home, and and magi. I'm gonna give you that's a kind of a harder one, right? Magi, home.
Okay.
Magi, and let me think for 60 seconds about a third word.
Are you roasting me right now, dude?
What I am going to say, John, is we've already got your Lions. Let's talk about the forgotten team in Detroit. Let's talk about the Tigers. You never really talk about the Tigers because who talks about the Tigers? So your 3 words are home, Magi, and Tigers. Bring us home.
Home. Tigers and Magi. Home, Tigers, Magi. Home, Tigers, Magi. Okay, ready?
Yep. Go.
3, 2, 1, go. All right. Many people don't know this, but right next to Ford Field is Comerica Park, where the Detroit Tigers play. And so I often get to stand at Ford Field or at Comerica Park and look across the way and see another losing team, which is just incredible because it's just the right next door. You can throw a baseball from one to the other and anyone can hit it, which is absolutely crazy. But you know what? It's okay because there's something about when I am home in Detroit. I was born there. I lived there for 6 years, and it's important to me. It really feels like a gift anytime that I get to go home. because I love that city as part of who I am. And it often reminds me that I am supposed to make a gift of myself to other people. And so I try to do that as often as I can. I try to think of the Magi bringing gifts to the King, to Jesus, and offering the best that they have. And I try, what, the lions, the tigers, they're always offering the best they have. It often isn't enough. But what am I offering to the people in my life every single day to try to bring God to them?
One day, the Lord, just like he did with the Magi to Jesus, one day the Lord will give a gift to Detroit sports. We're not sure when that will be. It might take 2,000 years, 4,000 years, 6,000 years, like the Promised Savior and the Promised Church. But one day, the Lord will gift Detroit sports.
I just sure hope that it isn't like Michigan football. Fine, I love Michigan football. Detroit Pistons have won, a championship or two in my lifetime. I just hope that's not it. Give me some more.
Right? Yeah. Like I said last week, God, I love what you've done for me, but what have you done for me lately? That's Detroit sports in a nutshell. All right, well, that's our game. I enjoyed that. I think you're very good at this. I think of all the co-hosts, I think you're the best at this. So I love playing this game with you. Hope that you guys enjoyed hearing us preach about the Advent Christmas season in the silliest way we possibly could. Don't go anywhere. When we come back, we're going to share some of our favorite nuggets from our actual preaching, our actual teaching, to try to return to some of these main points. So do not go anywhere. We will be right back. Our YouTube channel has been doing really well lately, all because of your support. We just wrapped up our 10-week foundations course. This is 10 videos of like the basic teachings of our faith, whether you're new to the faith or want to revisit the faith and kind of go back to basics. Our foundations course is all there on the Catholic Foundations playlist at youtube.com/Forte Catholic. We've also got full-length episodes of this show where you can watch us and not just hear us. We've got our Catholic Perspective series, where recently I've been tackling a lot of Disney's new movies and TV shows like Doctor Strange. I also just did one on Rogue One, the Star Wars movie that I used to hate. Now I feel a little bit better about after watching the show Andor, which is another video that'll be coming out later this week. So we've got a lot going on at youtube.com/Forte Catholic. Head on over there, hit subscribe, and check out some of the videos. We appreciate it. Welcome back to Forte Catholic. I am Taylor Schroll, and that is just John. We're just going to stick with John.
Okay, just John.
Just John.
Lene?
No, just John for this one. Just John. So I was thinking about it when I was speaking at the retreat. So I kind of built the theme of the retreat. I kind of did the flow of the talks. I ended up giving a talk Friday night, 3 talks Saturday, and 1 Sunday morning. So it was a lot of speaking, right? And it went pretty well. And I think one of the reasons that it went well is that when it comes to like retreats or like parish missions, it's like I'm bringing like my best stuff, right? We talked about the Tigers a little bit earlier, right? Like when we were watching baseball, when it comes to the playoffs, it's like the pitchers are giving their best stuff. They're not holding back at all. They don't have to worry about a long season. It's like literally get the guy in front of me out. We're not worried about longevity. We're literally worried about right now. I'm bringing my best stuff, right? So when it comes to a retreat, it's like I'm bringing my A game. I'm bringing the best of myself. I'm bringing the best talks. I'm like compiling the best that I possibly have to bring to this retreat, right? Because every now and then you have to write a new talk or write a new, come up with new things for the show, right? Like, so when I come up with an idea for the show, a lot of times it's like brand new and we're talking it out for the first time. But these talks is my A game, right? So I was thinking about it and I was like, there's a lot of this stuff that I've shared on the show throughout the course of the years, right? It's been 7 years. And I think I often work out content for my talks on the show or work out content for the show in my talks. It kind of works both ways, right? And I was like, we're going to do like a Hall of Fame or like, kind of a best of, I think the best nuggets that come from like what the Lord has told me and then given me the ability to share, right? And you've been speaking, you've been in ministry for a long time. And I know that you travel to give talks and stuff too. So I'm going to ask you yours. Like, what do you think are your best nuggets, right? So this isn't full talks, but essentially it's like, imagine I've been speaking for about 20, 25 minutes and the band is now coming up because we're about to start adoration. There's a little bit of worship music playing as I give this final talk to bring us home as Jesus comes in the monstrance. Does that make sense to you?
It makes sense to me. I may not be able to get into the moment, but I can talk about what I say. But I don't know if I can get into the mode of actually doing it.
Oh, no, that's fine. I don't think I'm going
Okay,
to.
great.
Either.
What a blessing.
I'm
What a blessing.
exhausted. I did it all weekend. I had my preaching.
Yeah, I was just doing it last
weekend.
week too in Wisconsin.
Okay. So here's one of them. I give this talk on the Holy Spirit. We talked about the breath of God earlier in a very different context, right? But we go through a lot of stories that I've talked about on the show. We start with the story of creation, how the Spirit, like the same word for spirit and life and breath, was one word in Hebrew and in Greek, ruah and pneuma, right? So it's like where do we see the Spirit throughout the course of history? The Spirit hovered over the waters, ministered to the waters. So even before creation, God was preparing us for something good. We see it in the valley of the dry bones, right? Where like the dry bones get brought back to life, but they're put back together as human bodies, but they're not alive until God breathes into them. The second creation story, God forms Adam and Eve out of clay, and how do they come to life? He puts his breath into these dirt clods and they become human beings, right? At Pentecost, the thing that changed everybody's, the entire course of human history, what came upon them? The Spirit, the breath. There's this driving wind came in, and the Spirit came upon them, right? And so the same Spirit that we hear about through all of Christian history, all of salvation history, is the same Spirit that lives in us. And I think there's like a huge disconnect there. We're like, oh, the Spirit did cool things back then, but what about now? It's like it's not a different Spirit, or he's not tired after 2,000 years, right? Like It's the same Spirit that has been alive and building up all of salvation history, lives in us because of our baptism. I talked to a lot confirmation kids about this a lot when they're receiving the fullness of the Holy Spirit, right? They're being confirmed in their baptism. It's the same Spirit that dwells in us. And God can do great things, and he wants to breathe new life into us with his breath, his Spirit. So I think that's one of my favorite connections, is that like we're not living in something disconnected from history. It's that the same Spirit is alive and well in us that was alive and well, and bringing the same Spirit that brought Jesus back to life lives in you, Jon.
That's a beautiful nugget.
You're a beautiful nugget.
Thank you.
You're very welcome.
No, seriously, that's beautiful. I like that. I like that a lot.
All right, give me a nugget. Like what's one of Jon's A game messages?
Let's see. One thing I like to do is I'm always like re-proposing the gospel, right? Always, like in any talk ever, they're like, hey, come give this talk on whatever subject. Like I'm always going to work the charisma in there, because I feel like most middle schoolers and high schoolers like don't actually know like just the basic story, right? That there is a God. Here's why. He's a relationship. He made you for relationship in his image and likeness. We are not perfect. We mess up. He promised us a savior, covenants, Jesus shows us how to live, died for us, rose from the dead. And if he rose from the dead, if that's true, like I try to like get them to like answer the question of whether or not they believe that Jesus actually rose from the dead. Like because if they do, then like everything that you're doing at church and hearing in this talk and this conference is true and amazing and beautiful. And if he didn't, then we're all just wasting our time. So, and I find like a lot of the young people, they don't actually like have an answer. They say like, I'm an atheist or I'm a Catholic or I'm this, but like when's the last time they actually thought about it? Did Jesus actually rise from the dead? And I like to talk about the apostles and like how they went from after the resurrection to being, before the resurrection, you know what I mean? After the crucifixion, they're hiding in a room, and they go from being terrified to being willing to all but one be martyred for the faith, including beheaded, hung upside down, crucified upside down. Like how do you go from hiding in a room to that? If you took the body and threw it in the ocean, it's because they saw the resurrected Jesus, like that something happened, and they wouldn't have done that to protect a lie. So they saw something that changed in them that allowed them to go from that room to there. So ask yourself the question, do you believe it? And if so, then everything that we say, everything that the church says is just true. He rose from the dead. And I like to throw the C.S. Lewis quote in there, which I'll butcher. But just the whole like Christianity is either infinitely true or it's not true at all. The one thing it can't be or important. It's either infinitely important or it's not important at all. The one thing it can't be is moderately important. And so like, yeah, either he rose or he didn't. Let's make a decision and then live our lives that way.
It's beautiful. Beautiful.
Hey, thank you, my friend. Thank you.
People should book you to come speak at their churches.
Thank you. That sounds great.
It's like a new novel idea.
I'll give $300 off for a good bottle of bourbon. What?
there you go. For a $300 bottle of bourbon. There was all those athletes that were taking all of their salaries over the last few years in cryptocurrency, and that all
Yeah.
crashed. And you're never going to get paid, but you'll drink a lot.
We'll have Blevin and bourbon, okay?
Yeah.
It'll be great.
Bourbon Blevins.
Butter Blevins, bourbon. There's a lot here.
That's very funny. It's funny. One of my big realizations in my own spiritual life that I share now actually kind of picks up where you left off when you're talking about this realization of what changed in the apostles there at the end, right? It was this thought of all the doubts that I've ever had. Like, is Jesus really real? Like, is he actually in that piece of bread at church? Did he actually rise from the dead? Does he really love me? Does he really care? Like, any of these doubts that I've ever had, I thought, man, I would never doubt again if I could just see Jesus. If I could see him perform one miracle, I'd never doubt again. If I could see him rise from the dead, he walked through a wall and he came into the room and showed the apostles his hands and his side, and that he was back to life. Right? I always thought I would never doubt again. And then it was sometime in the last year or two, I was reading the Gospels and reading into Acts, and I was like, the apostles saw the miracles. They saw Jesus perform miracles. They heard every sermon that he gave. And yet, where did they go when he was crucified? Where you said, right? They went and hid in fear in the upper room. And then Jesus came back to life, met them in the upper room, and how do you ever doubt again, right? That's my assumption of what I would do. But then when Jesus assumes into heaven, where do they go back to? They go right back to the upper room. They're still afraid, right? And the thing that changed everything was Pentecost, was the coming of the Spirit, right? And I feel like so many Catholics are, we understand and we have a relationship with God the Father, right? Kind of this, we attribute things to the Father in our spiritual lives of he's big and powerful and he's the God that I bow down to, and he's the big, the Almighty. And then we have Jesus, who's like our Savior. He can be our friend. He's the one that teaches us how to live, like our model, our mentor, right? And then we're like, Holy Spirit, what? what do you mean? How do I have a relationship with a bird? How do I have a relationship with a fire? But what changed them was the coming of the Holy Spirit. So myself inviting the Holy Spirit to have a bigger role in my spiritual life, and inviting other people to, when I go speak, to come Holy Spirit, invite the Holy Spirit into our lives more often, try to have a relationship with that member of the Trinity, I think is just life-changing, because we know that it was for the apostles.
Yeah. I like that yours have a theme. Your two have a theme. I like that.
What is that?
What's Spirit, the breath.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, very much so. Very much
and
so.
Both.
All right, another nugget for you. I've got one more. How many you got left?
Okay, I could do as many as you want, but I could do this one as my last one if you want.
I could do this all day. You're like Captain America.
No, I don't. I one of the things that has just had a profound impact on me when other speakers have done this is, and I just do it as well, because if you can connect Scripture and Catholicism, I know that as Catholics we don't need to do that because we wrote it and approved the Bible and stuff, but a lot of kids don't know that, and a lot of Protestants don't. And so just connecting the sacraments to to Scripture and showing hey, this is actually a thing that happens. So I often talk about the Eucharist and Mass in general, right? Because every retreat I've ever done, every talk you ever do, I try to make sure, if it's already not on the schedule, that Mass is in the schedule, that the sacraments are happening, that people can go to confession, that they can go to Mass. And most middle schoolers and high schoolers just don't understand Mass, and don't, that we're speaking to at least. Yeah. They don't understand Mass. They don't necessarily know what's going on. When I had it all explained to me, everything that happens in Mass basically comes from Scripture. Dr. Scott Hahn, great book on that, and basically went to Mass multiple times and basically was like, oh my gosh, this is all in Scripture. I know what's happening, when he was paying attention. I think it's called The Lamb's Supper, by the way. Yeah. That book. Just good stuff. And so I talk a lot about just the, if you understood passionately, if you raise your hand if you ever lost somebody in your life, right? And almost always someone raises their hand, grandparent, whatever. And you just say the closest you will ever be to them is when you're at Mass. When we pray the prayers, and the priest says, right, that with all the angels and saints, we proclaim that we actually believe that we're lifted up into heaven, and that we're with the angels and saints. And if the people that you lost in your life are in heaven, then they're a saint. And so they're with us. The closest you'll ever be to someone you lost, if they're in heaven, is going to be every time you go to Mass. How could that be boring? So you'll be thinking of them and praying for them and asking for their intercession. And then talking about just the Eucharist, like closing with John chapter 6, reading it. John 6 is the reason I'm still Catholic, Taylor. Like I made a joke 15 years ago about how I could just like, why not just go become a Protestant pastor and just get super rich and try to like convert them all to Catholicism. Right. Yeah. And John 6 is the reason I could never, ever leave the church with all its scandal, with everything that, and the way that the church has broken my heart in many ways. The institutional church, that is, like the Eucharist is the reason I can't ever leave, because as you just said earlier, like all the apostles, the disciples, they're watching Jesus walk on water. They watch him feed 5,000 plus people, and then all of a sudden in that same chapter, John 6, he's giving them the bread of life discourse and says over and over and over and over again, unless you eat my flesh and you will not have life within you. Unless you drink my blood, you'll have no life within you. And the Jewish people are getting upset because he's talking about Moses and the bread, that the manna that came down from heaven, and he just keeps saying they died. Like he's like roasting them. He's like, your ancestors ate that bread and they died. The bread that I give you is the bread of eternal life. And eventually at the very end, and I often will read that whole thing kind of dramatically and talk about how they get angry and angry, and the words that are used in scripture are kind of funny. But at the very end, like this, someone says, hey, this teaching is hard. Who can accept it? And Jesus quintuples down again. And it says in John chapter 6, verse 66 and John 6:66 that many of the apostles or disciples returned to their former way of life and no longer accompanied him. And like all Jesus had to do was be like, all right, I was just kidding. I went overboard. Like we've all been there. We've all said something. We've all been there where we're like ranting and someone's like, that's a little too much. And you're just like, all right, like you're a kid with a game, right? And you're like, these are the rules. And your kid like, we're not playing that game. It's like, okay, we'll change the rules. Like, and Jesus very well could have just been like, no, that's not what I meant. You misunderstood me. And then he's just like, all right, see ya. And looks at the 12. Like, are you going to leave too? And they're like, where else will we go? So, I mean, if I like to just kind of bring it back to that, the Eucharist and how Mass is awesome. And then again, ask them to ask that question. Like, do you believe this is true? Because if it is, in a few moments when we have Mass, you get to receive the living God.
You're very, very good at this, Jonathan.
Thank you, Taylor.
All right. We're going to do one more each, but we're going to adopt the rules of freestyle preaching. We have to do it in 60 seconds. You ready?
60 seconds. Deal.
All right. My final one is that it's from Romans. That while we were separated, while we were still sinners, God demonstrates his love, that while we were still sinners, Christ died for us, right? 2 points there is that while we were still sinners, while we were enemies of God, is when God died for us. So he didn't just die for us whenever we're being perfect Catholics and, or we always joke like, oh, take me right after confession, right? He didn't just die for us in our holiest moments, our best moments, and the best things we've ever done, the most loving we've ever done. He died for us in the worst moments. Like the worst thing you've ever done, John, is the moment that Jesus died for you, right? And all the other moments, after that, right? But it goes all the way down there, that while we were still sinners, while we were enemies of God, he died for us. So he, we always talk about I'd lay down my life for a friend. I'd lay down my life for a loved one. But he laid down his life for his enemies, for the people who turned his back on him, right? And it's this thing too. It doesn't say that God demonstrated his love like once, right? It's that he continues to demonstrate his love. He does it for us each and every day. Is constantly inviting us back into relationship with him, even when we screw up. So it's just like that's my favorite. Like his mercy is just it's not exhausted, right? Like he's constantly calling us back to him even when we screw up. So that's my last one.
I love that. Well done, dude. It's always good to hear this. You're inspiring me, Taylor.
Well, it's funny. I was thinking about this the other day, and I was like, I feel like, how I speak when I go to lead retreats and how I talk on here is very different.
Yeah. Well, that's okay. There's a time and place. You're doing it right now, and that's good. That's good. You know what I mean? But if I did this on stream without just out of context, just started going it'd be weird. But if I was like, hey, we're doing this science, we're gonna do it, I think it's cool. People can choose to be there. You know what I mean? On retreat, everyone's there. They're expecting it.
Right.
I don't know.
They're not expecting me to go up on stage and be like, what's up?
Yeah.
I'm going to go to sponsor ad reads in the middle of my retreat talks next time.
You should. This talk brought to you
by Tubby Lard. All right, John, if you had one last thing that you would like to share, one final message that you would like to share with people, this is the time.
Okay. I think right now one of the biggest issues in our entire world, especially with young people, but also our generation of millennials, is that we do not feel lovable, or that we don't feel loved. And I think that it's both, but we don't feel loved, but it's because we don't feel like we're lovable. And the two things that I think are super important to think about are, first, when we find out that we're made in the image and likeness of God, that means that when we look in the mirror, we should see God. And like, that's what he sees. And that's a big deal, right? That means that we're not who other people say we are. We're not what our friends say or social media says or the comments or whatever. Like we are sons and daughters. We are made in his image and likeness. And the second is that he loves us more than we could ever imagine, like you said, and there's nothing we could do to make him love us less. Like, and if I as an imperfect dad, and trust me, I'm an imperfect dad, but if there's nothing my kids could do to make me love them less, how much more is the perfect love of God the Father with us, right? Like I bring up, like my kids could kill someone and I still love them the same. I would think they deserve punishment and justice, and mercy needs to be on the victims and all that stuff. But like, I still love my kids. If my love like that, which is imperfect, it can be like that, how much greater is God's love for us? And so we need to let God love us.
That's beautiful. And you're a great dad. You're a better dad than me, because I have one exception to what you just said. My one exception to the only thing that my kids can do to make me love them less is when my son and I are playing Fortnite and he can clearly come res me and he decides not to and then dies. That makes me love him a little less.
That's amazing. I knew you were going to say something about like he beats me in Mario Kart. Like I knew you were going to say that. That's funny. That's
like, funny. Res me now.
Yeah, not yet.
Well, it's funny. I think this episode flowed very well. We did our fake silly preaching. We did our heartfelt preaching, kind of under the idea that, like, if you had one last message to give the world, what would it be? And John, you're not dying, but you're dead.
Hopefully not.
You're dead. Oh my gosh! Because you have decided to leave the show, Jonathan.
Wow. Yeah. Yep. Gosh, I love you, dude.
We've had so many great times here on the show. So let's do a little recap here, right?
Okay.
Back on August 16th, 2018. Taylor Schroll was 96 episodes into the show we called Forte Catholic, and it was a very different show than the Forte Catholic that it is now. I didn't even have co-hosts at the time, but we had this one guest come on. His name was Jon Blevins. He talked about how he was doing evangelization and pre-evangelization on this thing called Twitch, and he was just doing it on the side. And now he's built an empire and is doing it full time. Became a co-host on January 9th, 2019. So wow. Here we are. We've been doing this show together for 4 years. You've done 48 episodes, and you decided...
Have I actually?
You've done 48 episodes. Yeah, this is your 48th episode, and 48 episodes, you finally are like, I can't do it anymore. I'm so tired of this guy.
No, it's not that. That is cool, though. I'll never forget when that you sent me, I want to say it's a Twitter DM. I was at my parents' house. It was the scandal. The scandal broke that morning, and I was so mad. And I was like, I don't want to do an interview. And it went really well, and you made me laugh, and I needed that. I had no idea it would turn to 48 episodes. That's amazing. That's very cool. But yeah, dude, I'm sad to leave you. It's not that I won't ever be back if you'd still have me back, every once in a while. But I just
Probably
right now okay, perfect. How's John doing? No, none of that. But right now I just have more projects than I've ever had, and I'm having a hard time balancing. And we're doing a lot of big things. I just have to laser down my focus for this next really year. And then kind of see what's happening. It's the first time I've ever owned a business. I got through the first year, and I'm really trying to get through year two. So if you'll be happy to know, I'm not joining another podcast. I'm just focusing on all the projects that we have going on at the moment, as well as my wife and kids.
Yeah, for sure. Again, forgetting about your family and the Lord.
No, I love my family. No.
No, this has been great. What's really funny is I didn't even think about it until right now that one of the biggest tiffs between you and I is that you want me to text you everything, and every now and then I have something special that I want to call you about. And you're like, never ever call me. Don't call me. What are you, a bad millennial? Stop calling me. And it's usually like big things that I want to like talk about and not text about. Well, all of this started, John, because I called you from the Dallas-Fort Worth airport in between flights and asked you to be a co-host. So our friendship is based on something you hate. The foundation of our friendship, of our working relationship for the last 4 years, is all based on a phone call, and that brings me incredible joy.
Okay, that's one way to look at it. The other way to look at it, and the more joyful way to look at it, is that it's based off of the shot of tequila that we had.
That was about a year later.
Was it a year later?
Yeah, or something like that.
So we've hung out. Okay, so I've talked to you on the phone then twice in airports. almost as much as I have in real life.
Yeah, I think we've had 2 other phone calls outside of the airport.
It's amazing.
But I really do appreciate it. Like, it's crazy that it's been 4 years. You've brought a lot to the show. The show has been really special to me since we've gotten the co-host. Like, it just completely changed the show. Every episode with every co-host is different because you all have different personalities. So we're gonna miss you. We're losing something. We're losing the other chubby guy on the show, and I'm sad about that.
Imagine I just get absolutely swollen in a year from now. You bring me back on, and you're just like, oh my gosh, it was me. I'm the problem. That was a Taylor Swift joke.
Yeah, it was. But there's another joke about something that you hated about the show that I won't make because you told me that there was a guest I had on that has something to do with that it's very funny, and you and I are going to laugh about that, and that's how we're going to end our time together. One little inside joke for us to end on, and I'm trying not to tear up. Jon, I really appreciate your friendship. I appreciate all the just all the stuff you've done for me, all the stuff that you've done for the show. You've never seen a penny out of this. I mean, you got one free pair of pants that I sent you for Christmas, right?
They're my favorite pair.
Your favorite pair of pants. But you've just done this out of the generosity of your heart, and I appreciate it. And I appreciate you and your friendship, and I wish you the best of luck in all that you're doing.
Thank you, dude. I appreciate you. It's been an amazing opportunity, and you're doing great things, bro. I love your community. It's Twitter especially. Like to hear people, like you just have people commenting all the time, and get the inside jokes, and you're welcoming to the people who maybe don't know the inside jokes. So you're not too niche of a podcast. You're killing it, man. I'm excited to see where you go as well. I'm excited to be your friend as well throughout this whole thing, and excited to get back to Houston. I haven't been in a couple months. Hopefully we can hang out here in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, for sure, man. Well, the thing that I always hated about you being on the show was that you always stepped over my outro. So for one last time, you're going to step over my outro. I'm Taylor Schroll. That's Jonathan Lene Blevins. I'll be back next week. He'll be back never. See ya. Thank y'all for watching and listening today. We hope that you enjoyed it. We want to give a big thank you once again to Jon Blevins, not only for his time today, but his time over the last 4 years. We'll have some announcements on who our next co-host is going to be very soon. So make sure you hit subscribe so you don't miss out on that. Y'all have a great week, and we'll see you very soon. Love you.